Okay, I figured I'd start this out with the video. I was going to post some description of the project, but I didn't. I felt like this would be easier. I had my camera nearby and I had all the pieces nearby and I didn't want to take pictures of everything. So I'll just do a video and see how it turns out. If it turns out alright, I'll keep doing other ones through this build. We'll just see how this goes. So, I've got all the pieces to my Wildman Jart that came yesterday. Pretty much three 32-inch G10 fins, short 12-inch body tube, and plastic nose cone, just a lock precision plastic nose cone. So the first thing I'm going to do for this build is I'm going to cut the fin tabs off so I can attach the fins directly to this without them getting in the way of my motor case. That shouldn't be too hard. I'll just do that with the jigsaw. I got new jigsaw blades today that I'm hoping to try out. And then I'm going to wrap parchment paper around my casing and just epoxy them into here using this stuff. I went to Ace Hardware today and I was looking for JB Weld, but this was the only thing they had. They had a Permatex cold weld. I'm thinking it's about the same thing as JB Weld. It's a high temperature epoxy rated up to I think 300 degrees and has a 3,000 pound PSI strength rating. So it looks like a pretty good epoxy. I'm just gonna, there's only maybe 1 ounce total of it in here. And it's only really enough to just do a fin attachment and then small fillets. Over those small fillets of this JB Weld stuff, I'm going to do carbon fiber ones. If I have the patience to do carbon fiber ones, I will. They take a ton more work than any other kind of fillets I've done. A ton more sanding and a ton more filling, and just they're kind of a nightmare to finish. But after that, I'm planning on doing two layers of 6 ounce tip to tip, or carbon fiber. I really like working with carbon fiber a lot more than fiberglass, just because it's a lot stronger and you can use less of it. Plus it's a lot nicer for the finish. But I'm planning on doing maybe a 2/3 tip to tip and then a full tip to tip over that. And that'll be what's going to keep those fins on through Mach 2 hopefully. Let me see, what else should I talk about? I'm going to use the casing, again, as a mandrel for my upper body tube, because of course this is much too short for the tube. This thing sticks out maybe 4 inches above the top of this 12-inch tube. So I'm going to make another body tube using this casing as a mandrel, and that'll be probably 12 inches long also. So both the body tubes will be 24 inches long, plus maybe a 10-inch long nose cone. It's still pretty short for a 54mm minimum diameter. With the nose cone, as an example, I'm using my Wildman one from my Dark Star. I'm planning on getting one from Eric, one of his plastic ones. They look really nice. They've got the removable aluminum shoulder that looks really easy to, this isn't a real thing, but you can just imagine. It looks really easy to keep a GPS in. It looks really easy to convert to hold the GPS. And they're much cheaper than the filament wound ones. The filament wound ones I think were somewhere in the range of $50 from Rocket Warehouse, and Eric's were I think $35. So I guess I'll get started on this thing. Oh yeah, another thing I want to talk about was shock cord attachment. I'm going to be using a spacer for 54mm, a 54mm spacer to do my shock cord attachment. I don't have a spacer right now, so I'm just going to show you with a 34mm one. A 38mm one what I'm doing. So what I'm going to be doing, this on autofocus, this better not be on autofocus. Okay, so on the spacers I'm noticing for both 29 and 38 and hopefully 54, I haven't looked at a 54 spacer, is they have this little machined lip. What I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on just epoxying just a steel rod between these two sides and attaching my quick link onto that. If I were to attach my quick link onto my upper tube, or have some mount somewhere on my upper tube when the ejection charge went off, it would just pull this tube off, and the whole bottom section along with my casing would just tumble to the ground. So by attaching my shock cord to the actual motor, it's keeping this thing all together, and it doesn't put very much stress on the connection right here. It doesn't put very much stress on the connection between the motor and the upper body tube. I'm planning on just friction fitting it. I hope that's okay. I really hope that's fine. If it's not going to be pulled out in any way. That's why I can't attach my shock cord to it. But I think it's going to be fine for mock flight. It's still a pretty long shoulder, so I don't think it's going to wiggle at all on here. But that's basically what's going on with my product description. I'm going to watch this video and see how it turns out, and if it looks good, I'll do one for my fin attachment. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, it is time for some fin attachment. I already got the first fin on here. I did a video for the first fin attachment, but then I noticed that Mason's Christmas present was in the video. It's down here on the floor now. So I'm going to attach the fins using the stuff I said I was using earlier, this cold weld stuff. Sets in about, the working time is about 8 minutes, which is perfect for the fins I'm doing. That's about my ideal time for fin attachment. Longer than that, and it starts to get annoying how long the fin has to be held there. And shorter than that, it's a little bit hard to get the fin in place quick enough. So I feel like this 8 minutes it has with the 8 minutes you have with the cold weld is really a nice working time. Alright, I've got my fin now. My fin's been roughed up with 60 grit. My attachment point's been roughed up with 60 grit on the inside of the tube also. I guess I'll get started on this. I guess I'm going to weigh this down a little bit more. Maybe I'll just get it clamped. I think it'll be fine with this. I'll just get tape. Let's see if I got this whole thing in the shot. Some masking tape over so it doesn't roll around as much. I'm attaching the fin. It's not super efficient, but it works okay. Make sure this fits in there well. Alright, so I'll mix the epoxy and get started. It's just a simple 1-to-1 ratio. Like most of the other shop epoxies, just like JB Weld. One is black and one is this kind of lightish gray color. It's kind of thick. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'll put it where the camera is focused over here. So that's my part A. This is my, I don't know if this is my resin or my hardener. Okay, there's my part A. And this is the gray stuff. It's basically the same amount. Really should make a hole in this too. You need a little more black to make that equal parts. I don't really mind having a little bit extra epoxy. There's plenty of epoxy in that tube for all of my fins. Looks about right. This isn't a very precise epoxy. It's mixed up. It is a lot thicker than most other shop epoxies I've had. I'm pronouncing everything wrong today, I'm sorry. It's a lot better, it's a lot thicker than other shop epoxies I've had, but I've never used JB Weld, so I can't really compare it to that. I imagine it's similar, and it looks similar once it's mixed. It's kind of this dark gray. Like that. Okay, so now this is pretty thoroughly mixed up. It's all a uniform color. I'm just going to take it. I'm just using a barbecue skewer to mix epoxy. You can get these in a pack of 100 and it'll last you forever, or close to forever, until your little brother breaks all of your epoxy sticks. I'm just going to smear it into the crack where the fin is going to be. I'm using parchment paper wrapped around my motor. I don't recommend using anything but parchment paper or mylar. A lot of times epoxy can stick to stuff like wax paper. I've made that mistake before. So really parchment paper or mylar are the only two things you should use for parts that epoxy are not going to stick to. Parchment paper is really nice. You can just get it at any grocery store that sells like aluminum foil or like wax paper, or really any other kind of material like that. I've got it all in that fin joint right now. I'm just going to press the fin into the thing, press it down as hard as I can. I'm going to kind of slide it over so this notch is lined up with the other one. Just going to put it in here, press it down, and the epoxy squeezes up around the fin and press it forward. Just like that. Get this thing and just make little fillets along the side really quickly. I'm planning on doing fillets with this, just really small ones, and then doing fillets over this. I'm not sure if I talked about this or not in my previous video, but I'm planning on doing fillets with this and fillets over this JB Weld stuff. Planning on doing fillets over the JB Weld stuff with carbon fiber or some other similar thing, maybe chopped glass. Just gonna make sure my fin's perfectly lined up there. Pressing it hard down to make sure I get all that epoxy squeeged out so I get all the area I can that's coming in contact with that epoxy. So I'm planning on doing fillets with this JB Weld stuff, and then maybe fillets with carbon fiber if I have the patience. Carbon fiber fillets are some of the hardest to work with, in my experience. I've made carbon fiber fillets a couple times, and they just take a lot of sanding and a lot of filling, and they're really hard to make. It's just great to cut. It's great to carbon fiber pulp and laminating epoxy. Gonna make sure this is completely straight up. That's about it. I'll have this cure and I'll see how it goes.